The second the CEO's kid refused to look me in the eye, I knew my career was dead. He sat there, a 30-something MBA in a suit that cost more than my first car, treating me like a glitch he needed to patch out of the system. My name is Nathan Brooks. I'm 58 years old, and for the last 3 decades, I've been the lead architect for Ironwall Technologies, designing the quantum encryption that secures Navy comms from the Atlantic to the Middle East. Trevor adjusted his silk tie and flipped open my file like it was a menu at a cheap restaurant. "Listen, Nathan," he said, not even trying to sound sincere. "You've done okay work here, decent work. But we're pivoting. The future is AI first, and honestly, your analog methods just don't fit our digital roadmap." Analog? I almost laughed. I was writing quantum algorithms while this guy was still learning his ABCs. But sure, call me analog. "The company is evolving," he went on, flashing a smile that didn't reach his cold eyes. "If you can't adapt to innovation." He waved a hand toward the door, like he was shooing away a fly. "You know what this is? This is what happens when a founder hands the keys to his son, just because he has a diploma and the right last name." Trevor never wrote code. He never stayed up for 3 days straight fixing a server crash. He never missed a family holiday because a defense grid went dark. But he had his father's blessing, and apparently that mattered more than 32 years of loyalty. The Navy teaches you to stay calm under fire. I felt that old, icy composure settle over me. It was the same feeling I used to get when the threat radar lit up. Don't panic. Assess. I glanced at the photo on my desk, my team. I'd hired most of them, trained them. We'd survived impossible deadlines on stale coffee and grit. So I just shut my laptop. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to argue with a child who didn't understand the machine he was trying to drive. I stood up, tucked my severance folder under my arm, and walked out. I passed my engineers, who were all staring at their screens, terrified to make eye contact. I passed the HR director, who used to ask for my advice. Silence. That silence told me everything. But here's what guys like Trevor forget. Silence isn't always surrender. Sometimes it's a weapon. I didn't go home right away. I went to Murphy's, an old diner with red booths and coffee that tastes like battery acid. I sat there and just thought. Not about anger, not about revenge, just thinking. Ironwall was my life's work. I joined when it was 4 guys in a warehouse. I watched it turn into a billion-dollar defense giant. And the code that powered it all? The encryption that kept the fleet safe? I built that foundation. Every line. I paid in cash and walked a few blocks. I caught a yellow cab, old school, just to clear my head. When I finally got home, it smelled like aged leather and dog chow. Rex, my golden retriever, looked up from his bed. He's a therapy dog, trained to help with my PTSD, and he knew something was wrong. Tail wagging slowly. Cautious. I threw the folder on the table and poured a glass of the good bourbon my late wife Sarah bought for our 20th anniversary. Then I opened a drawer I hadn't touched in a decade. Under a pile of old tax forms, I found it. A plain manila envelope. No label. Just the weight of a contingency plan I hoped I'd never need. Inside was the original patent filing. My name was on the top line, not the company's, mine. Back in 2009, during a funding crisis, the company was a mess. Legal was too busy keeping the lights on to worry about IP assignments. My friend Rick, a Navy buddy turned lawyer, gave me some advice over beers one night. "Nate," he said, "file it yourself, protect your work. You can transfer it when they stabilize." They never stabilized. They just got rich. And they forgot about the paperwork. But Rick was smart. He buried a clause deep in the provisional filing, a landmine with a 15-year fuse. It said, "In the event of involuntary termination without cause, All rights revert to the inventor within 5 business days. Ironwall had been using my framework for 15 years on temporary licenses. They always meant to fix it. They just never got around to it because they thought I was a lifer. The reliable old guy who came with the building. Well, Trevor just kicked the reliable old guy out. 32 years in defense teaches you tactical thinking, identify assets, plan the strike, execute. My phone was blowing up. Slack messages from the team. Sorry, Nate. What happened? The usually terrified sympathy. HR sent an exit survey. I deleted it all. Let them sweat. Nobody stood up for me when it mattered. Why should I ease their guilt now? But they didn't know the truth. Trevor didn't know that I wasn't just an employee leaving the building. I was the landlord, and I still held the deed. I went to the hall closet and pulled down a dusty box marked archives. Sitting on the floor, I sifted through old notebooks and coffee-stained drafts until I found the official copy, October 15th, 2009, sealed, notarized. It was beautiful. This wasn't about getting even. This was about reconnaissance. I sent an encrypted email to Rick with a scan of the document. Subject line, "Is this still live?" He called me the next morning at 0630. "Does the clause hold?" I asked. Rick is methodical. He doesn't guess. I heard papers rustling. "Yes," he said finally. "If they fired you yesterday, the reversion triggers Friday at close of business." But Nate, that patent is their spine. It's everything. I know. You sure about this? They made the decision, I said. I'm just following protocol. I hung up and logged into the USPTO portal. We had a template ready from years ago. I filled out the form, checked the box for involuntary termination. No drama. Just a digital signature and a click. Submit. With that one click, I armed a nuclear warhead inside their corporate headquarters. The algorithm that ran their contracts, their new products, their entire pitch to the Pentagon. As of Friday, it would all belong to me again. I leaned back and drank my coffee. Rex hopped up and sniffed the laptop. He didn't care about intellectual property. He just wanted breakfast. Dogs have their priorities straight. Trevor was having a great week, apparently. I heard through the grapevine that he was strutting around the office, buzzing about AI synergy and Q4 dominance. He was prepping for the biggest Pentagon demo in the company's history. And every single feature he was about to show off was running on my code. Thursday afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was Paul from Dev. "Hey Nate, weird question. They're pushing the new build for the demo on Monday. It feels wrong doing this without you." "Good luck, Paul," I said. And I meant it. He was going to need it. Friday, 1700 hours. My inbox pinged. The confirmation from the patent office. It was done. Patent number 10234578 was mine. Unless they had rewritten millions of lines of code in 4 days, which is impossible, their entire next-gen system was now illegal. I started drafting a new document, not a resume, a license agreement. I wasn't just taking back my work, I was going to charge them for the privilege of using it. But first, I had to let the trap snap shut. The Pentagon demo was Monday morning. Trevor and his team were walking into a firing squad, and they didn't even know they were the targets. It started with an intern, some kid fresh out of law school, tasked with monitoring patent filings. I imagine him sitting there Monday morning, sipping his latte, scrolling through the database. He types in the company's patent numbers just to be diligent. Then he sees it. Owner Nathan Brooks. Status, active. Effective date, Friday. He probably froze, refreshed the page. Maybe he thought it was a glitch, but the data doesn't lie. He flags it, sends a panicked email to his boss. Subject, urgent issue. Or, legal reads it. They freeze. They dig up the old files. They find the clause, the one they ignored, the one I planted 15 years ago. Suddenly, Ironwall's billion-dollar contracts are based on stolen property. and they have already printed the brochures. I heard Trevor laughed when they told him. Clerical error, he called it. He told them to fix it after the presentation. He actually accused the lawyers of being paranoid. Don't bother me with phantoms, he said. Phantoms. I like that. I'll put it on his resume. Meanwhile, the engineers are prepping the demo. They have no idea they are committing willful infringement every time they compile the code. And willful infringement means triple damages. Trevor was too busy polishing his LinkedIn profile to care. But the legal team was writing a risk memo. I got a copy from a friend. The last line was brutal. Recommendation: abort demo immediately. Marked confidential. Trevor hid it from the board. He hadn't even told the board I was gone yet. He framed it as restructuring. If they found out he fired the guy who owned the IP days before a major contract renewal, he was toast. Tuesday morning, 06:35, my phone rang. I knew the number. I hadn't seen it in years. Colonel James Cross, the founder's husband. He'd retired to Montana years ago. He was a good man. He understood the mission. He hated the suits and the buzzwords. I let it ring twice. Nate. His voice was gravel and static. James, I said. Been a while. I just got a USPTO alert. The encryption patent. It says you own it. That's right. Is this a mistake? No. He paused. That can't be right. You assigned it to the company. Paused. That can't be right. You assigned it to the company. We never finished the paperwork, James. Remember? Series B funding chaos? It fell through the cracks. Nate. That's the core system. I know. Why are you doing this? He asked. I let the silence hang there for a second. Because your son fired me without cause. And the clause we wrote 15 years ago just executed. He groaned. A deep, painful sound. That wasn't supposed to be forever. I thought we had an understanding. They broke it, I said. Not me. He hung up. 20 minutes later, James walked into Ironwall HQ. I heard he came in like a storm front. No security badge, just rage. He went straight to legal. Did we secure the IP? He asked. When they stammered, he went to Trevor's office. The shouting matched the volume of a jet engine. Then came the demo. The Pentagon conference room. Polished steel. Generals in rows. Trevor was backstage, adjusting his blazer, thinking he could charm his way through the technical details. The video played. Stock footage of satellites. The audience clapped politely. Trevor walked out. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, smooth as silk. Welcome to the future of secure data. He pointed to the screen. The interface loaded. My interface. In the next 15 minutes, we will demonstrate our proprietary engine. 1. That's when the general counsel walked onto the stage, not running, just walking fast. She whispered in Trevor's ear. The mic was hot. Everyone hooted. We can't do this. We don't own it. Trevor laughed nervously. Excuse me, folks. Technical glitch. He turned to her. What? Nathan Brooks owns the patent. It reverted Friday. If you run this demo, we are breaking federal law. Trevor went pale. The room started to murmur. And then, the final nail in the coffin. Someone had leaked the documents to the Pentagon attendees. A lady in the front row stood up, holding a printout. Mr. Ashford, she said, this registration lists a Nathan Brooks as the owner. Is that accurate? Trevor squinted. I'm not sure where you got that. It's public record, she said. We all have it. The room died. They weren't looking at Trevor anymore. They were reading the papers, realizing that the proprietary tech wasn't Ironwall's property. It was mine. Trevor tried to spin it, rambled about partnerships, but the generals were already packing up. The demo was over. The contract was dead in the water. I woke up the next morning to silence. The good kind. My phone, however, was vibrating off the table. 200 missed calls, emails from legal, a text from James. I made coffee first, Then I called James back. "Nate," he said, "no hello, just panic. What do you want?" We didn't ask if we could fix it. He knew. I sent the email 30 minutes later. Subject terms, no legal fluff, just a list. A full licensing agreement for my patent, $22 million upfront, 15% royalty on all future contracts. I return as interim CTO with a board seat. Public credit for the invention. Trevor resigns immediately. I added one line at the bottom, "This is not revenge. This is a correction." 4 hours later, they signed. I didn't throw a party. I just sat there with Rex and watched the wind blow through the trees. Across town, Trevor was packing his box. He learned a hard lesson that day. You don't fire the architect if you don't own the blueprints. And the blueprints had my name on them the whole time. That night, I sat on my deck with a drink. The phone stopped buzzing. Tomorrow, I'd walk back into that building. Not as an employee, but as the owner of the technology that kept the lights on. Some people call it getting even. I call it market forces at work. When you spend a lifetime building something, you don't just let a tourist tear it down. You make sure they know who poured the concrete. Trevor is selling insurance now, I think. The company has a new name, Brooks Cross Technologies. We honor the work there. And Rex? He comes to the office every day. He has a bed right next to my desk. In the Navy, they say the most dangerous weapon is the one you don't see on radar. I'd been carrying mine for 15 years, waiting for the right moment. Trevor just gave me the reason to push the button. If you enjoyed this story of corporate justice, hit that like button and subscribe to Winds of Thought for more tales from the front lines.